So some people like their fragrance to fight the cold. I myself like to fully commit to the seasonal depression, and I like my fragrance to be as icy as the weather. And my guess is you do as well, which is why you click this thumbnail.
The cold never bothered me anyway.
With winter coming in, some people like their fragrance to have warmth and comfort, but some of us like it to mirror exactly what's going on outside. We like a fragrance that's icy, frosty, wet earth, damp, frozen woods, and metallic. Today I've got 5 icy cold fragrances for you, and I'm going to give you my 2 cents on each of them, so let's get going. All right, everybody, my name is Sean. Welcome back to My 2 Cents. If you've seen our videos before, welcome back. And if you're a new viewer, then welcome. Before we get started, I want to say real quick, if you are a fan of fast-paced fragrance reviews and you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. The algorithm really likes it when you do, and so do I. All right, let's get started. So 5 cold fragrances. This was an interesting list to put together. So this is going to be different than a 5 Christmas fragrance list. This is not going to be warm and spicy. These are going to be fragrances that actually smell or feel cold or give you cold vibes once you put them on your skin. All right, so these aren't ranked in any particular order. These are just 5 fragrances. Some of these houses you'll know very well, and some of them you may have never heard of, but I carefully curated this list so that I had a little bit of something for everybody. But the overlying theme that all 5 of these fragrances have in common is that they all just smell cold. So let's get started, all right? All right, so the first fragrance that we have on the list is a fragrance called Number 54 by the House of Fischerson. So for the first fragrance, we're taking you to Iceland. And I even did it in my cold Icelandic sweater for you. This is called a Lopapeysa. So if you don't know anything about the House of Fischerson, it is a tiny family-run house in Iceland, located in Reykjavik, Iceland. And it was founded by Jónsi by the Icelandic singing group Sigur Rós. Yes, that's Sigur Rós. Everything here is done small scale, it's done in-house. We're looking for an atmosphere first sort of vibe here and not designer polished. This particular fragrance is an homage to their father's workshop in Iceland. It's called Number 54. What you've got here, think varnished wood, think wet moss, dirt, burnt rubber, animalic leather, and that slightly dangerous chemical that's in the air that you might have smelled. All of it wrapped up nicely in a cold Icelandic shed. The notes here directly from Fischerson include a citrus opening. You've got bergamot, you've got grapefruit, you've got varnish. In the middle, you've got mountain pine and spice, and in the base, you've got cedarwood, leather, vetiver, patchouli, smoke, varnished wood, wet moss, wet dirt, burnt rubber, animalic musk, and ammonia. So why does this fragrance smell cold? So there's mountain pine in here, so you've got that dry, resinous vibe, sort of like cold mountain northern air. There's wet moss, wet dirt, and vetiver roots, which sort of give it the feeling like you're stomping on cold, almost frozen, wet ground. It's all very damp, very chilly. And what sets this fragrance apart is that varnish, burnt rubber, animalic musk scent that you've got in the base. It gives it a sharp, chemical, metallic, almost clinical note. This fragrance is not trying to be pretty at all. This fragrance, for me, what I get here is I get a rundown old shack in the woods that was used at one point for a workshop. You've got the sense of the inside of the workshop. Maybe the workshop isn't really heated that well. Maybe it's very cold. It smells all very rugged. But once you open the door to the Icelandic wilderness, then it gets even more rugged. The Icelandic wilderness just hits you in the face. You've got that cold pine, you've got the dampness of the wet moss and the vetiver roots and the wet dirt. Everything around this fragrance just smells cold, but that ammonia, the varnish notes, it smells sort of like a fresh coat of varnish on a wooden shed. This is going to be textured and cinematic rather than being pretty. That said, it may be a little bit too weird for some tastes. The ammonia, the varnish may smell a little bit too chemical, a little bit too synthetic for those of you that are expecting a very piney and very fresh northern air scent. But the bottom line here is this smells sort of like a cold, grimy Icelandic workshop. This isn't going to be a crowd-pleasing scent. This is going to be a vibe. If you want your cold winter scent to smell like experimental art, this is definitely a good fragrance for you to check out. I actually visited the Fischerson house in Iceland when I was there in April. It's a really unique space. They've got art there, they've got music playing, they've got all of the scent set up, and the people working there were very, very, very knowledgeable about the product. They walk you through all the notes beautifully. You almost feel compelled to buy them. I bought actually 2 fragrances there. One was number 54, the other one was number 8, which has a very strong rhubarb scent. But if you're interested in trying out a new house and you want something cold smelling and it's a little bit experimental, definitely check out number 54. All right, the second fragrance on the list is from a house called Imaginary Authors. Imaginary Authors is an indie house that's based in Oregon. This one is going to take us to the glaciers in Oregon. I have not reviewed anything from Imaginary Authors, and it's kind of a shame because I have 6 of the fragrances in the cabinet. I really like what they do there, but this one fits perfectly in this list. Each one of their scents is based around a fictitious book written by a fictitious author. There's a story that goes behind the scent, which I really, really like, and each one of the scents has a notes list on the back, and one of the notes is almost always a fictitious note. The fragrance that's going to be on the list of cold fragrances is called The Language of Glaciers. This fragrance sort of gives you the feeling that you're alone on a mountain. You're watching avalanches fall from the distance. You can smell the cold in the air. It's a very, very lone fragrance, but of all of the 5 fragrances on this, this is maybe the softest. The notes directly from Imaginary Authors include white pine, lilac, cashmere, juniper, forget-me-not, blue bugle, and the fictitious note here is virgin snowfall. So the opening is very photorealistic. It's got an opening that many people call very icy. You've got white pine, you've got juniper berries. Both of those scents are included in a lot of fragrances that are meant to smell cold. But as I said, this is the softest of the fragrances that you've got here. There are 2 notes that particularly do that. That's the lilac and the cashmere. That gives it a cool, soft, gentle sort of floral and cloth effect, keeping things gentle and chilly rather than warm and creamy. The lilac note has never been a very strong floral note for me. I absolutely love it though. It keeps things chilly, it keeps things soft, and it keeps this fragrance from getting too strong. The last thing I want to talk about in the notes is that virgin snowfall note. Think of this as sort of an aldehydic, sort of ozonic note that gives it temperature. It keeps it cool and it gives it a little bit of altitude. Here, this is functioning as the snow note. So as you think about watching glaciers, you're going to think you're surrounded by the snow. If you feel like you're in the Pacific Northwest, you've got that white pine, you think of the snow around you, you think about yourself watching those glaciers from a safe distance. This is definitely something that had to be included in here, and they've done it impressively by using this note. This fragrance has an icy crispness to it, and it has really a photorealistic pine. The pine is paired beautifully well with the lilac and the cashmere. It keeps it very soft. And then the virgin snowfall adds that cold scent without making it smell like aftershave. The opening here is airy, it's atmospheric, it's icy. The dry down is a little bit quieter, a little bit softer. If you're looking for a cold, introverted winter scent, then this one nails it. This is The Language of Glaciers by Imaginary Authors. All right, the third fragrance is by a house that I have reviewed before. This is by Memo Paris. If you don't know anything about the House of Memo Paris, it was founded by Clara and John Malloy, and their entire brand is based on fragrance through journey. Each one of these scents is a landscape, and the one that I'm going to include in the cold fragrances list is called Russian Leather by Memo Paris. This is part of their Queer Nomade collection. It's my French again. There are several fragrances here in their leather collection. There's African leather, Iberian leather, Irish leather. This one definitely for me is one of the most unique fragrances in that lineup. It was the last one that I got. I think it was actually discontinued for a period of time. I think that there was a note in it that became illegal to use in France, so they had to reformulate it. This is the original formulation of it. Memo goes on to describe this fragrance as a frozen Siberian tundra lined with dense coniferous forest. I think the notes have mint, there's camphor in here to specifically mimic cold air with leather, and there's woods underneath it. This one is great. So what makes it smell cold? Well, right off the bat, you have that mint note. There's a cold air mentholated mint sort of feeling right at the opening. Then as it starts to dry down, you can smell the pine needle, the cedar leaf, the rosemary. You've got that clary sage in there. It starts to give it a very woody, very resinous scent. It's herbal, it's camphoraceous, and it's also a little bit coniferous. It smells like you're genuinely walking through the Siberian forests. The leather comes in at the end, and think here it's a very cold leather. This isn't going to be something warm, something smooth, or something comfortable like a leather chair. This is a very cold leather. If I'm going to paint a picture about this fragrance, what I get from this is you're in a cabin in the woods in the Siberian tundra. You walk outside, you want to walk through the forest, there's snow on the ground, the night is lit by the moon, you can smell the juniper berries, you can smell the pine of the forest, but there's also something about that snow that you can smell. This just smells perfectly blended into a cold masterpiece. A lot of people online will say that this fragrance loses some of the magic as it starts to dry down. I don't find that at all. I do find that this is not a beast mode fragrance. This is not something that's going to just announce your presence in a room. This is going to stick closer to your skin. I don't think that this changes that much over time, although it does lose a little bit of the potency, and you're going to find yourself reapplying a little bit later. But this is such a beautiful fragrance. If you don't know Russian leather, definitely give it a try. What you've really got here is Siberia bottled up in the middle of the winter. Think mint, pine, and camphor that just smell like cold winter air. It's crisp, it's green, it's a little bit feral. If you're looking for a winter scent or a cold scent with a little bit of backbone, this is definitely it. Try and get your hands on a sample of Russian Leather by Memo. I think it's back in stock on the website. So if you haven't had a chance to smell it, I definitely recommend this one. This is the third fragrance on the list, Russian Leather by Memo. I love it. All right, so we're moving on to number 4 on the list. This comes from the House of Creed. Now, I know I could have included Silver Mountain Water here, but that wasn't giving me the coldest vibe out of the lineup. The fragrance that I chose for my cold fragrances list is Himalaya by Creed. I know you're thinking we really like Silver Mountain Water, and it just gives me a different sort of cold than what Himalaya gives. So this fragrance was created by Olivier and Erwin Creed, and the inspiration here is supposed to have been the Creed family's trek to Everest Base Camp. So we started in Iceland, then we took you to Portland, then we took you to Russia, now we're taking you to Nepal, to the Himalayas. What you've got here is a citrusy scent with a mountain air blowing over woods with a specific inclusion of the note of gunpowder. This fragrance was designed to capture the essence of snow-covered peaks with cold, high-altitude air. Now, the notes as they're listed from Creed include that signature Creed burst of citrus at the beginning. You've got lemon, you've got bergamot, you've got mandarin. In the heart, you've got a note of gunpowder, juniper berries, nutmeg, pepper, lavender, and jasmine. And in the base, it gets a little woody. You've got sandalwood, vetiver, and cedarwood. So the most interesting note here is the gunpowder note. For the longest time, as it was told to me, this was the only synthetic note that ever appeared in a Creed fragrance. And the reason that they included the note gunpowder in this fragrance is because it was, as I said, supposed to have been inspired by the Creed family's journey to Everest Base Camp. They would watch avalanches be deliberately set off with dynamite, and they remembered smelling the gunpowder, so they were very deliberate about including that note in this fragrance. This is definitely cold right out of the bottle. As I said, there is a citrus note here, and a lot of warm scents start with citrus, but this has a very metallic effect first. As you reach the middle notes, that gunpowder effect gives it a cool, almost James Bond in the Himalayas sort of vibe. It gives the fragrance a mineral metallic edge. It's very cool and calculated, the presence of the gunpowder note here. It gives it a very metallic, very mineral edge, and it complements the coldness to it very, very well. You've got juniper berries and pepper here. Think of those two notes as adding sharpness and dryness here rather than keeping it very warm and spicy. So in the base, as I said, this gets a little bit more woody. You've got your sandalwood, you've got your vetiver, you've got your cedarwood, but they come off as more dry and clean. This becomes a clean fragrance rather than keeping it creamy. This becomes a very crisp, metallic fragrance, even with the woody notes included in the base. This, for me, is a very clean, masculine scent. This one definitely leans masculine. Of all of the Creed fragrances, I know everybody can wear anything they want, and I know scent is universal. This one definitely leans masculine for me. A lot of people will not like this directly out of the bottle because they say it smells a little bit synthetic. I don't get that. This, for me, gives you that fresh out of the shower, cool, clean vibe. You can almost think of this fragrance as a cool, more metallic brother to something like Green Irish Tweed. This fragrance feels like you're above the tree line, you're getting that crisp mountain air, and it's fantastic. If you don't know this fragrance, definitely try it out. I just did my top 10 Creed review, and I have 40 bottles of Creed. This one for me was in the top 3. This is high altitude metallic citrus with a gunpowder twist. That's why I included it on my list of cold fragrances. Definitely check out Himalaya by Creed if you don't know it. If you do know it, let me know what you think about it. All right, we're on to the final fragrance here, and we're taking you this time to Paris. The house is L'État Libre d'Orange. I'm not going to say that again, but I'll put it right here so that you can read it. And the fragrance has a very long French name, which I'm not going to try and pronounce here, but it starts with the name Herman, so I'm going to call this one Herman. But I'll put the fragrance name right here so that you can see what it is. The translation is actually a line from a Victor Hugo novel, and it means, Herman by my side seemed to me like a shadow. So if you don't know anything about the house, you've definitely seen these bottles before, you've seen the labels. This is a French niche house which is known for being provocative and weird on purpose. There's lots of conceptual, sometimes confrontational compositions with even more confrontational names. One of the most famous fragrances from this house is Secretions Magnifiques. I don't own it. Definitely look it up if you're not familiar with the fragrance, and you'll understand why I said so. So the concept for Herman is exactly that. It's all about walking with your shadow through a dark forest. It's cool, it's woody, it's earthy, it's rainy, and it's almost slightly gothic. So I'm going to go through the notes with you as they're listed on the Livre d'Orange website. It's my French again. At the top, you've got black pepper, you've got galbanum, you've got black currant buds, you've got ozonic notes, calypsone, and geosmin. In the heart, there's incense with rose absolute, pepperwood, and petalia. And in the base, you've got ambroxan, patchouli, calypsone, and also some vetiver. So this one's all over the place. So the thing that sets this fragrance apart is the presence of that geosmin note. None of the other fragrances that I've reviewed for you here have geosmin in it. Geosmin is actually a molecule that smells like cold, wet, damp earth after a rainfall. There's sort of a watery chill. Think of cold rain on concrete rather than aquatic notes by a beach vibe. So you've got a little bit of spice there. You've got black pepper, you've got black currant buds, you've got galbanum, but this is sort of spice without heat. You can think of this almost as sort of adding a green refinement to it. And in the base here, you've got ambroxan and vetiver, which give it a cool, airy, woody, mineral dry down. And that really supports that dark, damp, shadow walk through the forest feeling. You've got cold, wet soil here. You've got incense, you've got misty rose, and you've also got those cool woods, which really give it that feeling that you're walking through a storm with your shadow. If you're someone that doesn't really enjoy a petrichor sort of fragrance, this is probably not going to be for you. This is sort of the warmest of all the fragrances that I gave you today. And if you're not somebody who likes a synthetic note, if you don't like that geosmin note or those ozonic notes, this may smell a little bit too synthetic for you, and this may not be a fragrance that you'd like to wear. This fragrance for me is wet, it's green, it's inky, it's a little bit gothic, it's a little bit mysterious. If you want your cold fragrance to smell like a midnight rainstorm in the dark in the middle of the forest, this is a good one for you. All right, so we sort of took you on a cold journey around the world today. We took you to Iceland, we took you to Russia, the Pacific Northwest, we went to France, and we went to Nepal. Which one of these fragrances is your favorite? Are you familiar with any of these? Definitely drop me a comment, let me know what you think. These are 5 different fragrances from 5 very different houses, and I feel like they complement the winter. They don't fight it, they sort of lean into it. As I said, let me know which one of these is your favorite. If you know any of them, or if you're interested in trying them, or you want to know anything more about them, leave me a comment. I will definitely respond to the comments. I have been responding to all of them, even the nasty ones. So if you're one of those people that appreciates a very cold fragrance in the middle of the winter, definitely leave me a comment. Let me know which one is your go-to. If I haven't included it here, maybe I don't own it, maybe I'm not familiar with it, I'd definitely like to hear what you think. Once again, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. But those are 5 cold fragrances. Once again, thanks for watching. My name is Sean. That was my 2 cents, and I hope to see you next episode. Bye, everyone.